Right, what we're going to use to test the rotor is my multimeter. I've had this a long time. It's a Fluke 177. Any multimeter will do, but this one, it's quite a decent one in its day. Okay, first thing you need to do is set the ohms range. Now you've got to check that it's just on ohms, not mega or kilo ohms. So check the range and set the range button just to ohms. You can just see the symbol there. As I'm going to do a few checks, I'm going to connect my crocodile clips to the frame of the rotor, and I'm going to check between that there's no short between the bodywork, the frame of the alternator, and the slip rings. So there we go. We've got open circuit on the multimeter. Check the other one. Same again. Open circuit. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the crocodile clip, and we're going to check the circuit between the two slip rings. So we're going to check that there's continuity and resistance, and what we've got, we're coming out at about 2.9 ohms, which is okay. What happens is when this alternator is working is this rotor, the windings, creates a magnetic field. Now to test that magnetic field, I've connected two wires to my to a spare battery, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge this rotor, and it should attract that socket. So there we go. It works straight on like that. So it proved that the magnetic field, a strong magnetic field, is working, and everything's hunky-dory. Go. So we've now proved that this rotor is fit to be put onto surface. We've checked it for continuity of the windings, we've checked that there's a resistance on the windings, and we've checked that there's no connection between the frame of the vehicle and the windings, so it's not going to be shorting out. And we've also checked that it's creating a magnetic field. So I'm happy now that I'm going to put this rotor back into the alternator and start building up onto the next thing, the next part, which is to fit a new bearing on the top here, on the top of the rotor. There we go. I'm going to put that on there. Right, we're going to attach the new bearing to the top of the rotor. Slide it on. I've got a socket that's just a bit bigger than the slip rings and connects with the inner metal ring of the bearing so that it doesn't damage the bearing. Dead blow hammer, and I'm going to tap it on. Starting to go down now, starting to move on now. And you can hear the change, the noise, as it gets on, it gets full socket. You can hear the noise change. Like it's fully on, spinning nicely. So that's that part of the rotor completely built up now. This is the alternator, but I've cleaned it all up, and I've given it a coat of paint and some lacquer. The stator, I've slipped the stator inside so that the tails of the windings match up with the holes in the top of the alternator. So when I put it on, it'll all come through in the right place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to check that there's no continuity, there's no shorts between the stator windings and the body of the alternator. So I've set my multimeter onto ohms, and I put it onto the buzzer so that it will make a sound, buzzing sound, if there's any continuity. Okay, so make sure you've got a good connection, and then check each winding in turn, making sure you've got a good connection. Nothing. nice and clear. Okay, but there is continuity between the main, between the three windings on the stator. So that stator seems good to go. It's a nice fit inside. I've cleaned it all up in the ultrasonic cleaner, and we're ready to put the alternator. That stator is now good to go. I'm ready to start putting the alternator back together again. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put the bearing in the bottom of the alternator to help support the rotor. Right, we're at the stage now where we're going to start putting this alternator casing back together. The stator's already fitted inside, and the rotor needs to go inside the bearings. The bearing in the bottom of the casing, which is in, and the top bearing, which slides into a plastic housing. Now, I'm going to put the rotor bearing into the plastic housing first. Okay. I haven't got a press, so if I have to, I'm hoping that I can get the whole thing in the vise and force them together. So that's my plan, and let's see how it goes. Let's try and get it. I'm going to try and get it into the top bearing first, the plastic one. Right. Okay, it's almost there. It just needs a bit of a bout with the dead blow. It's about, might even be, oh wait, no, it's not quite in. I can tell by the slip rings there, it's not quite in. It's about 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch. It just needs to go in that little bit further. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a dead blow hammer, and I'm going to try and force it in that way and see what happens. Got the dead blow hammer. I'm just going to support this side with my hand for now and give this a few little taps, see what happens. Right, it's actually going. Just a little bit more it needs to go, just a little bit more. Bottom slip ring is just not quite through. I'm really worried about putting it in a vise because I don't want to smash the casing. Maybe a big socket there, and then tighten it up and see how far it goes. That's what we'll have to do. Okay, damage it, well, so be it. It's only a little midgy away from being all the way home. That rotor just needs to go in, this top bearing just needs to go in about another 1/16, maybe less. So what I'll do is I'll go and set the vise up and see if I can do it with a socket and push that in that way, and hopefully I won't damage the casing. Right, well, it wouldn't fit in my vise with a socket on. It wouldn't fit in, it was too wide. So what I ended up doing was putting the alternator on the back of the vise like an anvil, and then like an anvil on the socket, and then hammering down, and it just went that last little bit, and the slip rings now are in the right place. So hopefully the rear casing, it should slide over the rear casing, and it all should clamp together when we put the nuts on. So here goes. Luckily the rotor does actually slide into the bottom bearing okay. Doesn't seem to be a problem. Get it in the right place. Maybe all the stator wires in the right place. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. There we go. That's going to clamp together nicely. Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll get the 4 locating nuts, the bolts, and a socket, 8mm socket, and see if it clamps together. Right, we're ready to start putting these bolts back in now. There's 3 long ones, 3 long studs and a bolt. The studs are what hold the covers on the alternator. The little bolt goes in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of heat-proof grease on, just to make it easier in the future if they ever have to come off again, and to make it less friction going in, so as they tighten up, they'll tighten up easier. Just a little dab of grease. I've cleaned all these bolts. I've put them in the ultrasonic cleaner, and I've wire brushed them all so the threads are all clean. Now I need to just nip these up. Long socket is just long enough to go over the stud. Tighten them up like you tighten up a wheel, really, just opposites, just to clamp the casing together evenly so that it slides together. Careful, because I don't want to break it after spending all this time. It just seems to be going back to. I don't want to. That's spinning nicely inside there. It's gone back together. So we're ready now to start putting the things like the rectifier, the voltage regulator, the brushes, etc. on the top. So on the homeward straight now, and then test it to see if it still works.